All right, from the missing to the mysterious. It's time to introduce our audience to Courtney Marchesani, our new voice of the UFO Report.
Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
Welcome to Spaced Out Radio, Courtney. It is so glad to have you a part of our team here, as you will be here 3 nights a week breaking down the latest and greatest UFO news that is going on around the world. And I want to introduce you to our audience. I know you've been on this show before as a guest a couple of times, but you are somebody who I have to admit, I have a little bit of a UFO crush on because of the knowledge and the people that you work with regarding this subject. You're not somebody who's used to being in front of the camera or in front of the microphone. Most of your work is done behind the scenes. How did you get to where you are right now in the UFO world, where you are a voice of reason and knowledge regarding this subject?
Well, if you would have asked me, 10 years ago, if I was going to be involved in UFO topics, now UAP topics, I would have said, you're crazy. I just wasn't in the field. I wasn't a ufologist. I had heard stories in my family about my dad's experience long time ago in like 1963. He had lights come over his Corvair near our family farm and his car stopped. The radio went dead, but I never thought that story was serious until I had my own experience with my daughter. We were out in Oregon in 2015. I was taking her to college at Southern Oregon University, and we had a very, very close encounter with lights that came down over my truck. The light flashed. It looked like some kind of flares or military exercise. The light came down right above our truck, hovered, and then split in two. And then from there, it just got even weirder and weirder. So I started to listen to Grant Cameron and started really digging into the topic, trying to understand what happened to us and what our experience was. And then ever since, I've just been digging deeper and deeper, and some of it has been synchronicity and being, a researcher into understanding the topics. And as I've been digging deeper and deeper, I've met the people in the field who I really like and trust, and who are accurate in their accounting and do good research too. So it's just been through perseverance, I would say, mostly.
Well, you know what? I think you do an amazing job. And I know that for a person in my position, I need people like you around me, or Ross Coulthart, or Science Bob, people who know how the back scene of the UFO world is going. And you guys, and I'm going to focus on you here for a second because you're now part of our team here. But your ability to work your way into situations, whether it's going to congressional hearings in Washington, D.C., or working conversations on Facebook Messenger or on the phone with very important people, you have developed one of these great reputations of somebody who is in the know. We're not fully in the know. We'll never fully be in the know. But how did you gain that respect and that trust from certain people to get to where you are now?
Well, it's a delicate balance. You and I have been in a couple groups together, and that's how I was introduced to you and your work, through a couple different groups. And I started watching your show because you had great speakers and topical subject matters on. And so that's what you do. You kind of follow the leads. And I know that a lot of people who have had these type of UAP experiences do feel synchronistically led. So that's a bit of the woo, but you do have these introductions to individuals that seem very synchronistic. You're in the same place at the same time. you go to these events, you put your time in, you do pay money, out of your own pocket to go to conferences and things where you want to hear certain speakers. So it's been a couple different events for me that I invested in going to. And one was Archives of the Impossible. And that's when we were in the one group together, when I was really kind of on the scene and reporting for the group, because they couldn't be there in Houston, 2 years ago when that inaugural event happened, and I was there. So I was letting people know about conversations as much as I could. And I think that's been my edge. People really who cannot be physically on the location, they really appreciate my reports of what's going on and the conversations as much as I can, while also trying to protect when people say, don't say this or don't repeat this. I really try to hold that for them so that I can be somebody who's accountable, but also trusted and reliable not to say things. Like I knew about the Sean Kirkpatrick change out like 2 months ago, but I didn't say anything, for one, because I wanted to wait and see if that was going to evolve. And now just yesterday or the day before, I saw everybody's posting that he's leaving in December. So I knew about that. And that's just because of trusted, reliable people who I've, made a rapport with. And so I'm very fortunate that those folks still communicate with me, at least some information that drops ahead of time.
What is a secret you could share with the SOR audience that they may not know about regarding the UFO side of the government?
A secret that I can share about the UFO side of the government. Well, your audience is really educated, so I might not know anything that they don't know or that they haven't seen. But I will say, in a couple of the chats that we've had in UFO groups recently, one of the things that I keep tracking that people might not know about is the people who have been kind of recruited, right? You have this long time established recruitment from intelligence community that gets embedded, right, in the UFO world or in the ufology community to really get information themselves, because they don't have all the information either. So they recruit, or they touch on people, or they make offers to people to work together. And that person who's in the UFO community might know that it's an intelligence community officer or might not. And so one of the things I can share is about 2 months ago, around the same time that I had heard that Sean Kirkpatrick was going to either be replaced, fired, or be leaving on his own accord, was that there was something coming. And I shared this with you, but I haven't shared it with anybody else. So this is definitely new information that everybody might not have heard, is that there was an event coming. And coincidentally, at the same time, like the night before, I had a nightmare, and I contacted a couple people in the UFO community because they were actually in it. And it's the first time I've ever really woken up from crying. I woke up and I woke myself up out of this dream because I was crying, because there was this huge event happened in the UFO community. And it was like a fever pitch that hit between a couple of different people in the community that I know. And so I got a call the next day after I had this horrific nightmare about what's to come in the UFO community. And it was somebody who is in the intelligence community. So it was coincidental, I feel, that he called asking for information. But one of the things he was asking about was, what's coming, if I knew this horrific event that was coming. And I shared that I had the nightmare and that it was certain people. I didn't tell him who was involved in it, but I did share that I saw this kind of a precognitive event. And so what I would share with the community, not just based on my own report, but based on the fact that the intelligence community is looking to psychics and other people in the community to know what this is about and when it's going to happen. I think what I can share is we need to all band together and not be split, either by the intelligence community embedding people in, trying to cause division right now between everything that's going on, and really trying to split apart people. And so that's one thing that I can share that I had personal experience with, and that I got a call the next day, which is very odd. Why would they be piped into that? It was a nightmare, but they're concerned. They're worried. And then I got sent a video on YouTube about remote viewers that had the same hijacking of their remote viewing exercise. And they all picked up a similar event. a catastrophic event, but they all saw different pictures of it in the remote viewing. And I put that into our news group as well for people.
Can I ask what that catastrophic event was?
Well, they didn't comment on it. They didn't say exactly what the event was in the remote viewing notes afterwards when they do their post discussion on what everybody saw and compare notes. They wouldn't say what it was, but they said that it was another event similar to 9/11 that was a catastrophic event. And so now everybody who was in that conversation is saying, well, was it the war in Gaza, against Israel? And once again, they won't comment on say whether it is or whether it isn't, but I think it's not. I think it's something else. That's just my opinion as an intuitive, having that nightmare and seeing what I experienced coming. It's much worse.
See, I had a regression therapy where mine was California actually splitting, which would be
well, I talked with a couple other people who also had similar nightmares that same night or in that same week, and they said similar things. One person said that he saw like this huge deluge of water coming down and thought it might have been Libya. And I said, I don't think that's what it is. I don't think it was the Libya, because that already happened. And so I'm really interested, as you can tell from my angle, into those kind of remote viewing or precognitions or intuitions about events that are coming, because that's also how I got into the UFO world, because I was having a lot of psychic precognitions before we saw the UAP, and I didn't realize that they were connected until I started getting into the research and understanding they're very intimately connected. And a lot of people that have UAP experiences have psychic experience as well.
I want to ask you what it's like for our audience perspective to have an agent call you and ask your opinion on what's going on. This is a two-part question. That's part one. Part two is, when they're asking you to update them on information, do you think they already know the answer, or do you think that they are searching for the answer because this is such a clandestine topic?
I think, to answer the first part, it's very strange. It's very strange to have some awareness that you're being monitored, right? Somehow, whether it's your email communications or your phone calls, your private personal phone calls with people, your friends, your network. And so that is weird. And I don't like it. For one, I'm against the Patriot Act. Okay. I'm an American citizen, but I'm against it. I was against it when it passed. I was against all of the legalities that were removed after 9/11, like removal of habeas corpus and a lot of that. I just thought that it was forgive me for throwing out, a book, but, Naomi Klein's shock doctrine. I thought that all of those legal precedences that were established was a shock tactic, and I still do. So I take umbrage at the fact that I get monitored potentially. My emails and my phone calls. I don't like it. I believe in privacy, even though we don't have it anymore, because I grew up in an era where privacy was part of your constitutional rights. So that pisses me off. Second part is, it is happening. We are dealing with it. You do get the phone call, whether you like it or not. And so you have to, in that moment, deal with the situation as it arises. And I do think they do know a lot, but I don't think they know everything. And so I think when you get that call, they're trying to just gather more. It's intelligence gathering. They're trying to gather more information. So it's weird, for one. Two, I don't like it. I'm resistant to it. And three, I don't always share everything. I mean, they're not in our head yet. They can't take everything out of our head. So I try to be careful when I do talk to people on the phone, sharing my experiences only, and then running things past other people to find out. Because psychological isolation after a UAP incident is one of the biggest issues I think that experiencers have. And so the fact that I have been through that isolation and come through it and developed a community is very valuable to me. And so I walk a really, really thin tightrope with all of that stuff, because I'm not intelligence. I'm just a regular citizen that this has happened to. And I know that my experiences have been authentic. So I try to find other experiencers who I can share with. So when the intelligence call comes, I think they already know a lot of it, and they're just trying to get more information and get a full picture so that they can complete it.
Do you think the intelligence community is playing dumb, or just plain dumb on this subject?
No, I don't think they're playing dumb. I think they're upping the ante. I think that they are, muddying the waters as much as they can in areas that are sensitive, especially around technology. They don't want, I mean, we saw and heard the DOD come out after this huge landmark hearing in Washington, D.C. in July with the two pilots and David Grush. And the DOD comes out after that when things are kind of hitting a fever pitch around disclosure and everybody's saying, yay. And the DOD comes out and says, there's going to be no more hearings because it's dangerous to the Department of Defense. And so I actually had gone down to Washington after that. I was coming back from Utah from a trip, and I spoke with Tim Burchett's staffer. And I said, I just want to meet with you. So we met there at the Longmar building. And I said, can you tell me if this is true, that there's not going to be any more hearings and you guys are, stopping? He said, absolutely, we're not going to stop. So I was relieved to hear that his office was going to continue to spearhead more hearings and get the skiff and get David Grush into the skiff with Luna and Burchett and some others. And so as you've seen, it's been a real battle between, the intelligence community at large and these individuals, whether whistleblowers or other researchers who are trying to move the ball forward.
Well, in the next half hour, we're going to get into some stories here, including David Grush, because he was a main topic of conversation earlier today in the Washington, D.C. regarding whistleblowers and whether or not they could get his top secret clearance back so he could speak. I think this is an important part. And Courtney, I think you are absolutely magical when it comes to the UFO report. And I'm very excited to have you taking over the big shoes of Tim Senor regarding the UFO report and being a part of Spaced Out Radio and joining us here. I think it's magical. I think it was meant to happen, and we're glad that it is. So we will be right back. When we return on the Mighty SOR, we're going to get into stories with Courtney Marchesani, including David Grush, the latest from the Hill. What's going on there? And it's also going to be interesting because in Mexico, there was a second UFO session about the alien bodies. We will be right back on Spaced Out Radio right after this. Had to warm you up there a little bit, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad that I was able to get on the alarm train.
Oh, I was laughing the other night. I'm laughing.
So sorry. Well, I'm still trying to figure this out. So I think I got it. Alarm is a good idea.
When do you head home to Alaska?
Well, I don't know. My mom just got readmitted to the hospital.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I spent all day kind of, doing the bedside vigil. So we'll see. I'm playing it by ear, but that doesn't mean that I can't be on SOR and do the news shakedown, the rundown. I'm excited about it. I can't believe I'm on SOR. It's really a dream come true for me. So thanks for having me.
Oh, you make us better.
I'm going to bring it.
You make us better. And I think once you get comfortable, our audience is going to be able to see the incredible news that you're going to be able to bring. It's going to be a little bit different than what Tim did. And Tim was amazing. And I love working with Tim.
Like you said, it's big shoes to fill. I want to go back and watch his new segments. Right now I'm just kind of fresh coming in and seeing how you roll, but I want to see what his new segments look like and what he what his story is about. Who he is.
Pretty much trying to piss me off so I go off. That's pretty much. Oh yeah. Especially when it comes to NASA. Oh, I hate NASA.
So was he pro NASA?
No, but he would find topics that he knew would rile me up, and NASA and Enigma Labs really riles me up. Really riles me up.
I know that about both, actually.
Yeah, I get pretty wound up because I don't like liars, and I don't like and I rarely use the word liar. I hate that word. Okay, and I think it's thrown around too much in the UFO community. But NASA is lying. They are lying. They've been lying for 60 plus years, almost 70 years.
Well, and
And
the problem with that I also get ticked off about is that when they're not releasing what they know, or even a trickle down approach where they're releasing a little bit every now and then, what fills that void is usually typically garbage. That's
yeah,
just fantastical stuff that's not even true. And so, they have a lot of accurate stuff, especially about satellites.
I just don't like the way NASA is playing the public for fools on this subject,
Yeah.
wasting that honey. And to me, like, I love what they do. I love space. I had the pleasure of, back when I was a child, single digits, a child back in 1980, in meeting Sally Ride, who would become the first woman in space.
Yeah.
Okay.
A
I mean,
remarkable time. Just so exciting.
absolutely. She was a hero
Yeah,
for
she was.
everybody. It didn't matter whether you were a boy or a girl. She was a hero.
She was.
And I got to meet her.
Did you really? I didn't know that.
I got
Wow.
see in my hometown of Abbotsford, British Columbia, we have one of the largest air shows. It used to be one of the largest air shows in North America. And they actually brought her up as a special guest. And so she was
Wow.
hanging out in one of the hangars and signing autographs. And
Did she
like,
have the whole flight suit on, or was she?
she had her blue flight suit on.
Oh, wow.
And I
Wow.
and just the fact that I got to meet her and I got her autograph. I mean,
Wow.
it was amazing. I think it was 80 or 81, 82, somewhere around there.
That would make sense. Mm-hmm.
And like, I've always like, I remember when she launched, I remember screaming to my parents, I met her. I met an astronaut. and I love what NASA has done. Okay, but when Bill Nelson takes the to the podium and literally lies that they have never had any incidents, and yet there's recordings all over the place of pilots and astronauts and the engineers and everything that are so contrary to what he's saying. It makes me want to shake the old man.
Oh, well, you got to look at people like Edgar Mitchell, you go back and you listen. Recently, I was listening to his old audios because they had
Hold
audio.
on, we got 4 seconds. Hold on. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott, man who wears a lot of tinfoil underwear each and every day. Yes, that is me. Reminder to all of you that if you missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and you can join us on Patreon by signing up for the SOR Space Travelers Club. Courtney Marchesani is here, our new host of the UFO Report, and there was big news coming out of Washington, D.C. You could watch it on C-SPAN, and it involved whistleblower David Grush. Now, there's a video that goes on about this where members of Congress were trying to get back, and I believe they did successfully, Courtney. We'll get your opinion on this, where they were able to get back, or at least get to apply back, for David Grush to have his security clearance so he could take part in further UFO talks, including skiffs, with Congress under oath. What's your thoughts about this going to the Congress and speaking about it publicly? Your thoughts?
Well, that was the thing during the hearing that was so frustrating for everyone. Now, I already was, not having high expectations being there. We couldn't, you wouldn't believe the people in line, people that had driven. I met one fellow who had driven from Michigan and had his dad flown out so they could drive like 20 hours or something to get to the hearing, and waited in line like all of us with huge expectations. But mine weren't that high because I had already seen all the testimony, essentially, right, from the two pilots. So, I know anybody who's been in the field long enough knows you're not going to get anything more than what you already know, because most UFO researchers are diligent. They stay on top of anything. But the most frustrating part about that hearing was that every time he was asked questions, really good questions. I mean, it was obvious that they were prepared. They had been in the UFO community. They had talked to researchers. They had the right questions. He couldn't go there. He would say, I can't talk about that in an open hearing. I have to go to a closed. And so that was when the skiff part of that whole hearing afterward was established. So everybody who was at the hearing was tracking the skiff and the process of getting him in the skiff. And apparently, he had security clearances at that time. And then, right, from July to October, it becomes this battle between Burchett and Luna, and I think Matt Gates from Florida, trying to get him in this skiff to get answers to those questions. And I know that people are feeling relatively positive about it now, but I was directly involved with the press release that UAP Med Coalition did when they leaked his medical information illegally. And so I did a crisis management response to that, saying these are medical records that are being leaked illegally. And there was a big brouhaha about that because the reporter, right, had said it wasn't illegal information and it wasn't information from his medical records. So then you see this smear tactic, right, to discredit him and say he's an alcoholic, he's, an abuser, and all these things that are clearly out of the intelligence community playbook. So I was directly involved with going and talking to Burchett's office at that time, trying to protect him through the Whistleblower Protection Act. Okay. So that was really soon after the hearing. And then now you see that he doesn't have security clearances, right? So then you're seeing this whole other agenda that he can't get in the skiff for these really litigious reasons why. So I am not as positive as other people are right now because I've been kind of involved in all of it to today. But I just skimmed before we came on the air, the financial bill that's supposed to name him in this new amendment to get money in order for him to be able to travel to testify and also to get the security clearances back. And I didn't see it anywhere. It was introduced in another news piece recently, but I didn't see his name anywhere in that financial bill. So it's not there.
Well, the funny part about it is Representative Eric Burleson was introducing the amendment to allow UFO whistleblower David Grush to renew his security clearance. I mean, Congress wanting this guy to have his security clearance back. How does this work? Because there's going to be people who have the ability to do that. But imagine the arguments and the closed door meetings that are going to happen and the swear words that are going to drop by those who are in power who don't want him to have his top secret clearance entrusted back with him. I mean, this is something that could get very ugly. Do you not think?
I do, because you have to look at the fact that one of the issues around the smear tactic of him and having the medical records released is that he still held his security clearance. That's the linchpin between the hearing and him having it and the smear tactic that came out after and said he still held his security clearance through this incident. And there was a police report filed. They knew 3 addresses to find, right? So that was direct intelligence community involvement, giving this reporter, access to where he lived, multiple addresses. So that's coming down from another higher level to get that reporter to go in the right direction to get it. And so the main argument at that time was he had these incidences and he still kept his security clearance. So you have to look at that, right? You have to follow and make the connections and see now that they're trying to get him in the skiff, he doesn't. And so it is a battle, and there are swear words. I'm sure there's worse than that. I mean, I'm sure there's gnashing of teeth and punching the air because you have so many people, according to, Ross Coulthart, who talked to David Grush and got the exclusive interview, who said that there are other whistleblowers. Ross has said that multiple times. There's other whistleblowers waiting in the wings to see how David Grush is going to be treated. Now here we are. I don't even know if we're midstream in the game or how far we are down in disclosure. But he is a linchpin person that can talk about the biologics, right? He mentioned that in the hearing. There were biologics. There's a crash retrieval recovery program. He mentioned that, and he needs to get in the skiff to give him that information. So we're at loggerheads because they're blocking it. So I think that we need to have more pressure, obviously, put on the Congress. As you heard Bob McGuire say, which I'm still just astonished, but I think he's 100% accurate. There's a lot of people in Congress that don't even know about these programs, have no idea that we need to get the ball moving forward to get him in a skiff, or that the credibility and the financial backing is on the line right now. So I do think that there's a lot of swearing. Yes.
I want to ask you something that I had asked Bob McGuire too, and this will be my final question before we move on to our next topic, and that is with Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick stepping down on December 31st. There's a weird line here because we know that David Grush right now is being helped by handlers provided by Peter THAL. Okay, Jesse Michaels is financially involved with Peter THAL, the multi-billionaire who has a defense company that takes care of hacking incidents or hackers trying to get into the United States military computers. And we also know that Peter THAL made his money as a co-founder of PayPal. Here's the interesting part that ties in. Kirkpatrick and Grush do not get along. Kirkpatrick's name has been bandied about with Enigma Labs. And who's backing Enigma Labs? Peter THAL. So my question to you is, how does this affect the UFO world if there's tension between these guys, and yet it's the same man controlling the purse strings of budgets and who's talking and who's not?
Well, the insider track, just flashback about 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago, and I had I wouldn't say friends, but definitely contacts who had told me that Peter THAL approached them personally, okay, and recruited them into working for him, but while also maintaining a public face, right, in the UFO community. So very similar to like the intelligence community, the way they approach people and in a friendly manner, right, for information exchange, while also maintaining, your reputation and your public credibility. So I know of 4 people directly who were approached by Peter THAL and given an offer for reporting, right? Because he wanted to get a foothold into that community. And so Peter THAL is and he's an enigma. He is an enigma. He's an enigmatic character. He has just deep pockets. I would liken it similar to, Bob Bigelow, when he was stepping onto the scene as a contractor with Bass. I mean, I think that that's probably, if I were to try to step into Peter Thiel's head, what he fashions himself, right? To be able to get in there, because what he wants is the technology. Let's not mince words. He wants the technology for Silicon Valley. He wants to be able to develop it as a private company. It would be very similar to what he did for PayPal or SpaceX. And so he financially wants to get metamaterials and all those things for that reason alone. But I don't think that he is, if I were to do analysis on it, I don't think he's a friend to the experiencer. I don't see that. He's gotten deeply involved in U.S. politics, and he has put a lot of money behind certain political candidates. If you go and see his track record, that hasn't always been positive. And I don't think that he's even in the U.S. game right now. He's trying to get, dual citizenship in like Malta right now and get a special passport so he can live there privately, similar to other Google and other huge mega millionaires that are wanting to escape the US and have pretty much like asylum in other countries by paying for it. So he's really out of touch and lives in an ivory tower, but he wants to have the people in the trenches. So I don't respect that. I don't respect that kind of behavior, and I don't respect it as American getting involved in all our politics and wanting to get that money and wanting to get to those programs purely out of self-interest.
All right, let's move on to topic number 2 tonight. Mexico's Congress heard from researchers again who declared authentic a set of 3-finger Peruvian mummies recently presented as potential evidence of non-human life forms, while declining to certify that the remains were extraterrestrial. Lawmakers first heard from Mexican journalist Jaime Maussan back on September 13th when he presented 2 specimens in a first-of-its-kind congressional event on UFOs in Spanish. Maussan said the bodies, believed to have been found near Peru's ancient Nazca lines, were not related to any life on Earth. At this most recent session, Maussan was more focused on proving the bodies, which were not on display this time, that they were not fake, ushering in a string of doctors who all said the bodies were those of real, once living organisms. Still, he left the room for questions about their origin. None of the scientists say, according to study results, that they prove that they are extraterrestrials, but I go further, he said, suggesting that there could be evidence of non-earthly life forms. Anthropologist Roger Zuniga of San Luis Gonzaga National University in Peru said researchers had studied 5 similar specimens over 4 years. They're real, Zuniga said to Reuters. There absolutely no human intervention in the physical and biological formation of these beings. So I want to get your thoughts on this before we move on, because there's been a lot of heat around Jaime Maussan and these Nazca mummies.
I mean, it is such a hot button issue right now. And we saw, I think it was last month, right, at the first Mexico Congress, that there was a huge scandal, right? Ryan Graves was involved with it, and it had serious ripple effects outside of Mexico, because everybody is watching Mexico and watching the Congress, and they trot these bodies out. And it's just fascinating. I think it's fascinating to see the experts who weigh in on it, the pictures. It's also people who've been in this field for a long time. It's similar, it smacks of the Atacama being that was brought out. There was a documentary made about it, and various established experts in the field come out and weigh in on it. They take biological samples, they look and test the data. And so I think that we're at the similar crossroads where you have experts weighing in on it. But what they're not saying, and all these reports, what they won't say is that it's extraterrestrial, that it's a species from outside Earth, or it's of an origin that's that fits the ETAH. So I think it's a fascinating story unfolding, and I've seen people and commentary from both sides. where you have people who are experts in the research community saying they've been established, there's bodies, they've had 12, scientists from this university say that they are real bodies. And then this other side that says it's absolutely not ETH. It's not. And so it's so interesting to look at the different sides. I'm still trying to see what's going to happen. At this stage, I'm just kind of stepping back and observing to see what's going to happen next. But it's a career ruiner. It will be a career ruiner.
In your opinion, are the bodies real or are they paper mache, whatever they may be?
Well, I'm inclined to say they're paper mache right now, because we all know that there's been intelligence involvement outside of the US community and other countries for a long time. There's been the UFOology and the UFO mythology has been used so many times over and over again to hide other things. So right now I'm inclined to say paper mache until proven otherwise.
Jaime Maussan is in a lot of deep water regarding these. Number one, that they were smuggled out of Peru, and Peru is very, very strict with its artifacts being taken outside the country without permission from local and federal and state authorities. They have an issue with that, especially around the Nazca lines. And I believe that they are looking into whether or not they can charge Maussan and his team for doing that, which, I mean, at 80 years old, I don't see him making another trip to Peru to go defend himself in a court case. But the other aspect is, it is also believed that these mummies were tested a number of years ago within the United States on proving whether or not they were human or alien artifacts. And the test results really showed that it was a bunch of different types of animals and human DNA that were all mixed together.
Yeah.
I'd love your comment on those.
Well, I'm sure they were taken out. Look at the Atacama being, like I said, it's kind of similar situation where you have, and good for Peru, rightfully so, that they should be concerned and hold strict authority over their ancient relics. For one, right, the Atacama being was taken out, right, and assessed from another country, and possession of it was held by various people. So, I mean, rightfully so, Peru should hang on to their antiquities. And so often you see that being abused and people getting involved in it. I mean, look at dinosaur bones, right? It's very similar, where people find dinosaur bones and then it gets taken over through other custody or through different types of societies looking to put them in museums. So I absolutely believe that they were probably tested in the US. Why wouldn't they have been? It's not the first time. But I don't know about the results. I can't really say whether, without having looked at it or looking at an academic paper or a study on it. So those kind of have a leap of faith on it. I just don't go there. Not unless somebody's peer reviewed it. There's been other things like this that have happened, like the dinosaur bones, very similar, where you have private citizens going out, taking bones, taking things, taking it off site, and then asking, other people in the professional community to weigh in on it, mostly because of financial reasons. So this is a separate type of situation, but I'm sure it was taken to the US and tested, but I don't believe what the results are unless somebody's reviewing it, and then somebody else is reviewing it, and then it's published. So it's interesting because now this is in a Congress and there's information coming to light, and I'm very interested to see what the outcome is going to be, because we already know about cattle mutilations. We know cattle mutilations are happening and have been happening, and they've been uncovered all over. And there's some part of that, once again, where the UFO mythology is, overlaying it. And so you have very real cattle mutilations happening, where bones and things and tissues are being taken in horrific ways. So there's obviously some type of laboratory or study going on from some other species, they think. And then there's the human involvement on top of it. So it's hard to tease it out.
We've got about 90 seconds left here, or 60 seconds left, Courtney. And just one quick question for you regarding this topic. Are you surprised Jaime Maussan went to bat twice for this?
Yes.
Or do you think it's his reputation?
Yeah, he doubled down. I'm very surprised by it. I mean, through the first time, there was all this discrediting happening. It was thrown out as evidence. You have everybody saying it's a fraud, and then he doubles down. So, yeah, I think that's very, very interesting that he took a second crack at it and doubled down.
Well, you know what? I want to say a big thank you to you for coming on Spaced Out Radio here, because this is the first of many UFO reports with our new UFO reporter, Courtney Marchesani. She'll travel for UFOs. She'll experience UFOs. She's talking to all the big names behind the scenes to try and gather up the news for us here at Spaced Out Radio. Great job tonight, Courtney. Thank you very much for your time on the UFO report. We'll talk to you in a couple nights' time. Wow. That is what I expected. That was amazing. A great show tonight with Science Bob and Courtney coming on in as we got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your car, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAP, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio at SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, yeah, we've got room for them too. Good night.